gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Friday, June 14th at 10:45 a.m. I don't know why the countdown timer didn't run. I didn't have my ever so common, exuberant introduction button. Yeah, I think that's just lag in the user interface. Okay, you guys saw it for 2 seconds. Good topic for the stream today. Compartmentalization. And as always, I frame my conversations, especially nowadays more so than ever, in not thinking the way the vast majority think. Now, clearly, that is a very common thought. Vast majority don't succeed. So why think the way the vast majority do? So one of the hardest things in that regard um, is not even thinking about specific assets. You see the conversations on social media. It's about particular assets. It's whether an asset is good or not, whether something else is better or not. And that is very often a manifestation of people always thinking about their total net worth. Now, every piece of data quantitatively is meaningful, but as I've gotten older, total net worth is meaningless. And you're going to find that the wealthiest people on the planet also don't give a shit about total net worth because you can't bank on total net worth. What you can bank on, how much money you have right now, if you want to go to a store and buy something, or if you have bills to pay, can you pay those bills? So zoom out a little bit. Fridays, maybe on a monthly basis, but your total worth means jack shit. You got a total worth of $100 million, you're allocating and investing. You can't just let it sit there. That would be insane. This is why the ultra wealthy have their total net worth not in dollar form, unless you're Warren Buffett, but clearly he also has exactly what I define nowadays as critical components of a well structured operation. He has everything. He has the investments that produce the cash flow. He has the collateral, which includes the investments in traditional financial terms, but we speak in terms of collateral a little differently. I'll show you collateral today. And clearly he has just a fat bank account, but that's for business operations. It's not personal capital. So total, what the hell does total net worth mean? So compartmentalization, as I frame it for my purposes in these crypto markets, is really cash flow. And it's assets that produce cash flow. And there's plenty of assets that produce cash flow. Even LP positions produce cash flow, uh, which requires a fair amount of active management. And that's why I don't necessarily exercise that behavior much, if at all. I prefer much less active participation required to achieve cash flow. In fact, I prefer maximum passive cash flow, passive investment. And there's a reason why the entire tax code is framed around passive investment versus active work. There's a big difference. And these subtleties are very meaningful as you construct, hopefully, an entity to encapsulate your business operations. I've talked about this for a long time, more recently, but I should probably really hit home on this now more so than I have been. Um, so many folks in social media commentary, as I said earlier, are always talking about assets and choice of assets and whatnot. Uh, you guys need to think in terms of a business, and that doesn't entail necessarily a corporation, an LLC, an S corp, what have you. And obviously, it's a big room, so there's a lot of different countries to potentially consider. But I would encourage the concept of a trust. Trust is simply put a private contract, and it's a contract with yourself. If you write on paper statements about intent, about structure, about rules. That's a contract. And then you get it notarized, which is literally, there's nothing to a notarization. It's just someone else putting a signature on it that has that authoritative capacity. So the right to private contract, especially for folks in the United States, is something inherent, something that's very deep in the core of the entire structure of the United States. It's a personal right. It's almost constitutionally protected, and it dates back to Britain and the concept of common law and how precedents, how past experiences that are codified and judged by judges create precedents, which is the history of decisions. And the right to contract privately is probably one of the most powerful things that an individual can do, because that contract that you write for yourself, potentially by yourself, with yourself and family, that is that's law. Not only is it protected by law, this concept is documented in law of uh, how power is delegated, how power is managed, what kinds of powers you have access to. So, obviously, folks are thinking about Curve yesterday and the complexities surrounding token price, and price, literally based on the introduction of my stream today, is the least significant consideration. Uh, maybe best to say that's what everyone's talking about. And what are other thoughts that can be stated? Is it over? Is it finished? Is there something that has changed other than, oh, laughing my ass off, I could have done better in a different investment? Uh, when I hear things like that as a 41-year-old, I mean, I could easily say as a 60-year-old that someone saying it as 40-year-old is juvenile, but I can say that for my age as well. 20-year-old running around saying, "Oh, look at this token price. Laughing my ass off. I could have made better money elsewhere." Yeah, you don't understand money, young man. You don't understand business. You don't understand family. You don't understand how to service obligations, how to service liabilities, how to manage capital. You're merely thinking in terms of the price point of a token, not the functionality that it contributes to a well-structured business. So you gotta grow up sometime and choose to think about things differently. And in that regard, that's exactly what we talk about. X, Y, and Z. Nobody talks about that shit. Nobody talks in terms of discounts. Nobody talks or has even references anything conceptually about how Warren Buffett historically at the core thinks about the investment process, distressed assets, discounts, and how likely is it to continue paying into the future. Pretty sure through all the noise of yesterday, um, a lot of folks stepped in and purchased, otherwise it would have been worth zero. A lot of folks engaged in activity, supportive activity. Why? Through all the noise, you do see posts stating Curve is the core of DeFi. And it is in many regards. Look how many protocols are dependent on it, its infrastructure, its functionality, its liquidity financing capacity. How many federated entities are literally existentially intertwined with it. So Curve is as strong as the the need to existentially survive of each and every one of the third party entities dependent on it. So, in that regard, it's extremely strong and it's at a discounted price. You will not know what any of these protocols are capable of, not just Curve, until liquidity starts to return. Liquidity has not returned to these crypto markets yet. The cycle has not started. This has all been just a mean regression back to the norm. If you look at any competing protocol, competing, it's an interesting starter for an entire conversation. What are you looking at? V33 Tech? We talk about V33 Tech. I stayed V33 Tech with its self implemented recycling functionality is iterative, just as Andre discussed, and that's significant. That does not diminish in any regard the significance of base VE tech as introduced by Curve, particularly Curve, particularly because the only reason VE tech works is because of a federation. Third parties organically, voluntarily opting in to participate around the core infrastructure. This is exactly why VE tech has failed everywhere else. Cannot be duplicated because you would need to duplicate the federation. And a federation is an organic emergence. It would be akin to the same conversation Bitcoin folks have. You can't duplicate Bitcoin because you need to duplicate the miners. You need to duplicate the whole infrastructure, the whole ethos, and you can't. So that's what Curve is, and uh, that's what ownership of it means. It's something that only exists because people have chosen for it to exist the way it does. Eh, Michael could have made some different choices with regard to his capital management. I would have been much less aggressive with regard to leverage, but everyone makes their own decisions and everyone has to live with the implications of those decisions. And this is certainly that situation. He's lost a fair amount of collateral, didn't want to dilute the locked voter escrow, other voter escrow participants. And whatever the rationale is, that's not for us to consider. We, as third parties, get to consider the implications of not only his decisions, but the impact that the decisions have had on market conditions. That's it. That's it. V33 tech is very meaningful. The stuff that Liquidity is building, probably in the future, their future versions, is meaningful. Not fond of the liquidation mechanics of V1. I'm not fond of even a Prisma. I don't like that liquidation, concrete threshold liquidation of even an Aave. Uh, I think the tech that Mitch and team have produced is quite extraordinary with the soft liquidation mechanic. And few, if any, have pursued that soft liquidation type of concept. So that is the takeaway. Tech is meaningful. With regard to capital management, X, Y, and Z. You deploy capital, how much is it paying, and how likely is it to continue to pay? Things are going to be volatile. So we started the stream talking about business. So how do we fold in what we just discussed about Curve, V33, Aave's coming out with a V4. It's Go token. It's meaningful tech. It's all meaningful tech. All of it is interesting. So we fold all of this tech into cash flow investments. And how do you size those cash flow investments? Based on risk, based on not necessarily market sentiment, but price action volatility, immutability, because mutability and proxy contracts are a risk, and those play into position sizing. And that's it. Like that's the entire takeaway from peering through all the bullshit of social media. We're literally having a discussion about what constitutes the cash flow part of a business. I don't need to talk about this for the entirety of the stream. I've literally talked about business and cash flow and X, Y, and Z for countless streams thus far. I'm much more interested nowadays in trying to put that as an earlier step that I have mm, I'm on to a next step of mental framework, and I talked about that on Discord, and I talked about that on X as well, and it's that cycle of capital. It's collateral takes on debt, cash flow pays debt, collateral can produce cash for to buy things, to purchase things, food and bills. Cash flow pays that debt. And if you don't have any purchases or debt to pay, cash flow goes to more collateral. And this cyclical framework that I've always appreciated, but now more so than ever, now that I have a very viable business structure and and a threshold of collateral and cash flow. So it's very much unfortunate. It's a chicken and the egg situation. It's like, how do you get a job if you need experience to get a job? Because a degree does nothing. But in order to get experience, you need a job. So that's chicken and the egg. So it's the same thing with regard to capital management, collateral, and cash flow. In order to do that entire cycle that I just talked about, you need both collateral and cash flow. You can't do really one and the other. If you have collateral and you're taking on debt to buy investments, how the fuck are you going to pay the debt? So you need a threshold of investments to actually pay your debt on your collateral. So you need both, and it's not easy to get both. But once you get both, then it becomes a growing loop. It's a self-expanding loop of capital management because all you have to do is reduce your expenditures and you're able to add more collateral, which means you can take debt and it grows. And that whole cyclical loop grows and expands over years because you don't have a 20-year-old's mentality on time frame. You have a decent time frame nowadays. And you're thinking in 4, 8, and 12-year time frames. Hope that helps. I'll leave up my Aave dashboard and I'll go through the comments. I'm at a 15.14 health factor. I got 5K at. It was like 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. I told you guys I grabbed a new computer, new setup for you guys, and I took a 5 chip on USDC and I bought Aave because with an equal amount of Aave to go, and you get the discounted rate. Discounted rate's 8.92% fixed rate. Um, so that was the logic there. I paid off the variable rate debt. I got the fixed rate debt remaining. Given the collateral amount and the fixed rate debt interest rate, I'm at a positive 0.13% interest rate. I'm not paying any interest on my debt net. So this is very, all right, I'll pay it off. And I could have paid it off yesterday, but I added a little bit of Ethereum. I'm light on Ethereum, I'm light on collateral. I spent all the last 2 years building the cash flow part of the business, consuming the collateral. I needed to consume the collateral, I need to spend the collateral to create the cash flow. And now that I have the cash flow, I can regrow the collateral. Can't do shit without both. Can't do anything without both. And then it's very unfortunate. That's a chicken and the egg, and there is no easy answer to that. I guess that's what I would describe as my version of what Charlie Munger said. Charlie said the first $100,000 is the hardest thing, and you do whatever you have to do. sleeping under your desk at the office. Uh, do nowadays do 5 side hustles, skip meals, do whatever the hell you need to do in Charlie Munger's terms to get to the first $100,000. And I would say nowadays, you do whatever the hell you need to do. You you do not. You're young and you want to go out and party and spend money and do whatever the hell you want to. You do nothing. You sit at home and you don't spend a dollar until you have a critical amount of collateral and investments that produce cash flow. You do whatever you have to do. Maybe I say that with a little bit of a parental overtone because I'm thinking about my kids, and that's what I would state to my kids. Grow up and do what you have to do to get collateral and cash flow. Because if you do it now, one, you don't have to do it later. And if you don't do it at all, it's not going to be a good future. You can't save for retirement. That math doesn't work. That math is dead. 401ks are stupid. Investing in the stock market's stupid. You're not going to outperform the currency expansion rate of 12%, considering consumer price inflation. You will never get ahead. You will never own a home. You will never, you will always work, trade time for money. Your only chance at freedom, economic freedom, is a critical amount of collateral and cash flow. That's it. So you do what you have to do. Hope that helps. I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but it's either you do or you don't. Kind of as simple as that. DCA man, hi, Cap, much pleasure. Tapsy's in the house. Up, y'all. Arrow, good morning. Gazika, hey, Cap. Connect the dots, good morning. And furthermore, Ooga Booga. Tapsy, I thought you were gonna rap on that intro music for a sec. Yeah, it wasn't working today. Is what it is. How did it feel not to care what happened with me? I do care. Look what he built. I don't know him personally. I've spoken with him a couple of times incidentally. I like people. I'm the anti-hater. I find the good in things. I like most movies. Most people are so critical of fucking movies. I'm like, oh, this was a complicated movie to make. Look at all that acting. It's very impressive. I see the good in things, and I have no capacity to judge his overall intentions. Probably could have been a little bit more considerate for impact to the community. Take less leverage. That's what I would say. I mean, look, I have up on the screen my I can't stomach debt. I can't. Or bear in mind, maybe this was an intention because how do you distribute? Do you give it away? I mean, he could have given it away. Who do you give it to? That's what an airdrop is. Who do you give it to? And how do you assess their alignment? Are they going to lock it? So in this regard, he created the stress situation. All the Federation participants got discounted exposure, and and it was able to distribute a large concentration of those CRV tokens into other persons' control that want to consume them. And I know, we all should know at this point, you don't expect uh, asymmetric appreciation. We expect cash flow. So most people that buy, then they're not going to necessarily just want, the price action. They're going to buy because they want to control voting. They want to control and have power. That's what the Curve token offers over a federation. And it's a lot of protocols. Very powerful token in the context of how many protocols have a vested interest. That's interesting. So I do care, but I don't. In regards to my business, it's a part of my business. It's a component. It's not an existential component. It's a critical component. The price point doesn't mean much. I don't even measure net worth anymore. Net worth is I mark all locked positions at $0 fair market value in my accounting books. So it's irrelevant. You can inspect the charts for quantitative information, but impact on my accounting books is literally zero. It was already marked at zero. Hope that helps. Tapsy, uh, waking up to that cascade made my blood pressure rise a bit, but it's all good. Yeah, uh, there's volatility. The liquidity is not pouring in the way it will when more favorable conditions arise. Folks in these markets are the beginning of these cycles. Folks don't. This is mostly newbies that don't know what it was like in 2020 or 2016 or earlier. And the conditions that have yet to present themselves is conditions of mass exuberance where there's just extra capital. And the asymmetry is presented in every single chart. And basically, that's grossly defined as malinvestment, where it doesn't matter what's going up, everything's going up. You buy shit token X, Y, and Z, and it's going up. So we're not into gross malinvestment season. We had, a sputtering of it with memes on Solana and airdrop hunting on Cosmos hubs and Base to a degree. Base, there's a lot of exuberance over there, but it's not what we experienced in 2020. I just did an interview with the Defiant talking about some of these topics. What happened in 2020, when that comes to these crypto markets in their current form, it's going to be extraordinary because if you put the current form of crypto markets into the environment of 2020, what we experienced in with quote unquote DeFi summer, I am I don't know what to expect. Why do I say that? One, we had no cross chain capacity in 2020. We didn't even know what the hell cross chain was. There was no other chain. 2020, I remember when Binance Smart Chain came out, and it was like, oh, look at Binance wanting to make a fork of Ethereum. Oh, that's going to do really well. Yeah, well, it did really well. Nowadays, we have Ethereum rollups. How many of them? There's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chains. And we have all these Alt L1s, we have Solana. None of this existed in 2020. None of the Stargate and there's Zero Tech and Tapioca and all the bridges. Listen, one of my favorites is this nowadays, Crypto Rubik. It's just an aggregator of aggregators. You literally go, there's 70 chains integrated into this damn thing. You don't know, you have no idea what's coming because you don't remember 2020 and you didn't have capital in 2019 and you don't remember how people were thinking in 2016 and 17. You're someone who jumped in to crypto markets maybe in 2021 excitement. You don't know what it was in 2020 and 2016. It was insanity, pure insanity. And now you have this. This this is right now I'm showing you this as an expression. This makes 2020. I don't even have words for what the behavior that this screen would have offered to people in 2020. It would have been obscene. The capital flows, the malinvestment. It would just been you get goosebumps. I get goosebumps thinking about it. This tech is crazy in 4 years' time. It's seamless cross chain. I wrote this in the end of 2021. We are in absolutely seamless cross chain. You can move capital wherever the hell you want. It is frictionless. You pay a premium sometimes, depending on your bridge of choice, depending on available liquidity. Pay pennies sometimes, going from Arbitrum to Optimism or 1,001 different other Alt L1s that cost pennies. The amount of transaction volume that can occur in these markets now compared to 2020 is just there's no words to put on it. We would actually have to see it to believe it. This screen, we wouldn't understand it in 2020. This was a mere couple of years ago. This is crazy. And guess what? In 4 years' time, you think this will be 70? No, it'll be 700 or 7,000. Whatever it is, this is just the beginning because this is all tooling around was it? I don't have it, but there's that layer 3 meta platform generator where you could take Arbitrum Orbit and or an Optimism superchain and use DA from Celestia or Mainnet and you could settle on base for if you want. And that's what the Gen chain more or less is. And take this into 2028, you're going to have 10,000 of those meta chains. Oh dear. Oh, folks have too much of a short-sighted perspective of where things are going to be. That's why the intro to this stream is more important than ever. If the potential of where we are is for insane market activity, and where it's heading is just you can't even begin to fathom what this is going to be like in 28. Then the most appropriate thing you could be doing right now is thinking about how the hell are you going to manage this and manage it in a sustainable way, in an organized and structured way. I'll go back to the debt for you guys. Let's keep it going down the list. We bank on cash flow. Mathemo. Yeah, yeah, that's right. You can only bank on cash flow. I mean, if you never saw the crypto markets and you were just a worker and an employee and you got a paycheck on Friday, that person is banking on cash flow. The problem is that cash flow is limited to the amount of time that they could trade for cash flow. And then, we've talked about the fact that you could purchase a salary. And then, now we talk about the loop of collateral and income and what that allows you to do. Ron Skopinski, hey Noah, thanks so much for your insights. What do you regard the best bridge from Bitcoin to Ethereum right now? I mean, there's a couple, but I was Thor Swap, call it a day. I mean, clear, that's all. It's all WBTC. Well, you could, well, not EBTC. EBTC is Ethereum as collateral. But at some point, I guess Frax will have their wrap the Bitcoin as well. But Thor Swap um, it's a WBTC Garden as well, which is catalog finance and what they built. Did they change their name? Yeah, Garden. Is it Garden? No. Yeah, maybe. I don't think it is. Is it Garden Finance? I literally haven't been keeping up with it. But ultimately the destination is Bitcoin. Yeah. Yeah, look, Bitcoin from Bitcoin. This is WBTC Garden and they've changed the branding. This was Catalog Finance and they were going to build on Ren and Ren doesn't exist in its current form. And this is what they built. Oh, you have TBTC, Threshold Network. So you have this, which gives you WBTC. You have Threshold Networks, which gives you TBTC. and you have Thorsop, which also gives you WBTC. So there's three decent techs, and at some point maybe red will rise like a phoenix from the ashes. But some of us got a nice discount on Curve, right? Now, I am quite fond of my Curve exposure. It produces some of my largest cash flow. Would I have preferred it at a discounted price? Yeah, that's the whole point. And my current mentality on capital management is in from a hindsight. I have a hindsight perspective. I own Curve for years. So, of course, I would rather it at a discounted price. But that's not what is the case. Are you going to dwell on that? Or are you going to manage your capital moving forward and learn from experience? And that is clearly the only way to proceed. So now, how do I prepare? Acquire cash flow. Cash flow goes to collateral. Collateral does investments, but look what Buffett does. Well, there'll be a period of time where the amount of cash flow is so great that all you can do is just add the collateral. You wouldn't be able to spend it. And as a prudent investor, using strict prudent investment guidelines, you can't invest. You can't invest when things are going asymmetric. So all you're going to be able to do is accumulate a little bit of um, liquid cash, maybe stable coins, but the rest has to go into collateral and define these thresholds in your business rules such that you have a rigorous process to adhere to. And that's everything. That's the most important thing everyone should be doing right now. Ski, just do native swaps. I don't know what the protocol. Yeah, using Thorchain. Well, there's always risk, but the net result is WBTC exposure, and you know, at some point, to collateralize Bitcoin, you're not going to do it using any of the Bitcoin type protocols because I, I d- there's nothing substantive or significant about those offerings thus far. Otherwise, they'd be consumed. So right now we have the likes of an Aave or the likes of a CRVUSD or Llama where we could access the equity in our collateral. So this infrastructure is significant. It's meaningful. Connect the dots, Aerodrome has quite a bit lower before it's in value territory. Well, so for me, I favor Velodrome because Velodrome is expanding significantly across chains. So I think in terms of exposure and when you spend capital, what kind of exposure are you getting in return for your capital? Now, if you acquire Aerodrome, that's it. You're just exposing to base. Um, and is base the most significant thing? You'll see proponents and social media folks be like, "Oh, that's all that matters because it's Coinbase," and that's some 20-year-old mentality type shit. This is a big environment, a big landscape, and base will not be the end all be all of crypto. So I think that that is a short-sighted, relatively juvenile mentality. So if I want the most exposure possible, Velodrome makes sense. Velodrome is yeah, it's trending towards discount region, discounted sexy zone as I would call it. So if you go over, I mean it's full retrace. So you're past 236. So you probably want to get below 8.3 cents because that'd be significant support. Not not that yeah, that's a decent statement. That'd be below significant support. So you're probably talking about that region, 8.3 cents all the way down to 0 bar, which is so 3 to 8 cents. Or maybe end up in Clio territory where it's just literally down, down, and down. I don't even keep the chart up anymore. I write off those investments when I purchase them. But given its performance, I don't even want to look at the damn price point. So I literally write off the investment. So there's no bottom on anything, just like there's no top. So don't think that it can't blow past the zero line. So what is a discount? Guess what? The market will tell you what a discount is. The market will tell you when bottom is. That's exactly what these markets do. Not just these crypto markets, that's what financial markets do. They're discounting reality. They're telling you what the hell the price is based on consensus mechanisms. So that is cold hard truth about price action and discounts, and but cheaper. Look at the direction. The directionality continues until capitulation, until some sort of blow off bottom. So interestingly enough, maybe curves had their blow off bottom. That was certainly a fresh all-time low at 22 cents. Maybe it hovers on 28 cents until liquidity. They do an interest rate cut in September, October, November, and then the ECB does an emergency cut, and China's doing stimulus, and Japan gets a swap line, and then all of a sudden the liquidity tap unloads, and the global currency expansion cycle finally starts in full force. Otherwise, if they don't juice GDP, how the hell are they going to pay these debts? So that's why that's very Raoul Pal type conversation of where the inevitability comes in to the currency expansion cycle is how are you going to pay off for all this shit, all the debt that's owed? Yes, you have to expand the system. And Raoul uses the phrase debasement of currency, and sure, that's a decent way to encapsulate the what 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 occurs, and then fundamentally that causes nominal asset price appreciation, with the crypto space outperforming significantly as compared to Nasdaq, especially the S&P. Hope that helps. Thorchain is good stuff. I think I helped you guys with WBTC Garden, Thorchain, Threshold Network. Those are the three. Um, very effective systems. I mean, look, there yet again compared to 2020. You literally go and Bitcoin into a wrap version of Bitcoin, which you collateralize and you can borrow against. None of this existed in 2020. Aave was called Lend in 2019, and Aave V1. This is advanced tech compared to 2020, and you can just get further excited about where V4 is heading and where things are going to be in 28. But if 2020 occurred right now, it would be weird. It would be so weird. This tech is crazy. DCA man, with Curve, I see the price down and crypto titter sending FUD, so I accumulate more at a better price than ever. XYZ. How much does it cost? How much is it paying? Um, Analytics. Uh, how much is it paying? We'll see in a second. Curve is paying 47% with the increase in transaction volume as well as the depreciated price. People are able to buy more of it for the same amount of capital, paying 47.9%. X, Y, and Z. That's the equation. And that's your cash flow. And then you come back, and after you have a portfolio of cash flow that's generating hopefully thousands of dollars a week or more, and you start to build your collateral. And how do you buy things? You take on debt, like I just showed you over the last 2 weeks, and then you pay it off. And then after you pay it off, add more collateral. And now you have more working capital. You can borrow more. As you have more collateral, you can borrow more. Rinse, repeat. Collateral grows, investments grow. Oh, and there's your what the wealthy do. So what I've done over the years is understood what they do, how they do it, mechanically, legally, structurally, with regard to business entity. And then I've tried to tell that story in a digestible way, in the journey that I've been on to figure it all out. Intel is a distressed asset. Someone said it's a bad investment because the CEO is actually competent. This is why I can't deal with equities. Like when I see what happens with the curve price, I'm like, all right, it got liquidated. And now I understand why the price was being sold, and now I understand why it's being bought. I understand the reasons for buying and selling. When you're talking about equities, you're talking about literally CEOs and the board and their debt and the products that they're producing and their supply chain requirements to produce those products. I mean, what if the supply chain is disrupted? What if the demand for the products decreases because we have a severe recession? You know, if you put that or apply those considerations to fintech, credit, foreign exchange, no matter how hard the recession is, everyone always wants debt. Maybe they want debt even more in a recession, and everyone always uses foreign exchange. I can't stomach those types of investments. What's the dividend yield on Intel? Probably useless. Probably it's probably a fraction of it. Let's look it up. I can- I can't. Why why is the world so stupid investing in something that gives you 1.6% of the money? It doesn't even cover the consumer price inflation. It doesn't cover the risk-free rate of return, which also doesn't cover consumer price inflation. My God, how is the world so stupid to invest in something giving you 1.65%? I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't. And I'm not going to be that stupid. I'm going to stick to my methodology and measure my success in 4, 8, and 12-year increments, just as I do right now. I see my total net worth as a irrelevant value, but I can measure my total net worth relative to 2019. And I made extraordinary choices compared to over that 4-year time frame. The results I've achieved now, and folks know me as what I talk about with regard to curve and my exposure. The amount of capital and business income that I have now, right now, after yesterday, compared to 2019, I could have never, ever, ever, ever achieved in traditional finance and equities in the stock market. Never could have achieved it in business. In business, you got ROIs of 5, 10 years. ROI. I- 4, 8, and 12 years in these crypto markets, it changes everything. It really does. No horns, no tail. James, tap with the excellent launch. All systems go. I have tap exposure. I can't wait. Everyone was excited about tap, and they raised 8 and change mil. I invested in them to get off the ground. I was one of their first investors, and I am grateful for them to allow me to help them achieve what they're going, they have achieved, and what they're further going to achieve. I have an extraordinary opinion of Matt, and everyone knows I talk with Ben on occasion, and very much I'm proud of what they've done as a developer. I'm a developer, and look what they've done. Look what they built, Matt and the development team. Quite extraordinary to see it launch like that. And I could only imagine, garnering the attention of folks to invest in early seeds, and then a public launch like that, raising 8.4 mil. Oh my goodness, he must be exactly as he expressed personally the other day, where he was, you get a little teary eyed a little bit thinking about those things. What an extraordinary success and accomplishment that is at a personal level. Anyway, Gaming Larry, hey, no, I seek advice. I have somehow managed to get myself 100K. I'm 23, so I want to put money to work. I'm debating between locking in your curve, the tokens, or even tap. Thoughts? Um, you will only ever know how well your choices are today in 4 years' time from now. You can only ever measure how well you've done from a perspective of hindsight. You're thinking about particular assets in this process that you're contemplating right now. There is risk, and you will choose one or two or three or five different exposures. One may go to zero, and that's something I have experience with in traditional equities. How many companies I bought on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ that have gone to zero from bankruptcy? And literally, it's just boom. So you can only, there is no advice I could give you. You have to build your own experience, chart your own path, and make some choices. I cannot tell you how to get a good balance between collateral and investments. You'll have to experience it for yourself. Um, but there's certain things that can easily be said. If you do nothing, there is no possibility of success. There's no possibility of retirement. God bless you, 23 with 100K. You're early. Good amount of capital at 23. Um, I think I was 30 with about 120K, something like that. So I think you have a good head on your shoulders thinking about investments. I think you're in the right marketplace thinking about investments. Don't, what I would say is don't try and turn that 100K into 10 mil. You'll, the odds are significantly increased that you will lose it. I think if you have a 4, 8, and 12-year time horizon, you significantly increase your odds of success. Um, and uh, and and this is the start of your journey. You will make some choices, uh, and you know we as a community here on this stream and or in private Discord, we're curious on your choices. Other people want to know what you're thinking. Other people want to know, did you choose this? Why did you choose this? Why did you choose that? And they want to know, what is the result? Oh, I got urine, it's cranking out 35, 40%. I put 20 grand in and I made 4 grand for the year. I was able to buy X amount of Ethereum and Bitcoin at the end of the year. And now you're building your collateral. Use income to build collateral. And then at some point, it starts self-perpetuated growth into the future. So we do talk favorably about urine products because of their history. Urine was one of the first products in these crypto markets to as a derivative. I mean, compartmentalize. That's the whole point of the stream. The entire crypto space into three primary products: foreign exchange, which is the exchanges, which are AMMs, otherwise known as, and credit, which is CDPs, be it Abracadabra or CRVUSD or Frax or Go or Key DAO and their My stablecoin, which hasn't that's struggled. It had its hiccups, but there's a lot of credit facilities in these crypto markets. There's Aave, which is a money market, and then there's derivatives. Urine has the Y curve, Stake DAO, derivative protocol, liquid stake derivatives. It's a laundry list. You're going to probably be overwhelmed and with what to choose because it's not just a laundry list; it's just an endless list, and you're going to be overwhelmed with how do you outperform the most. Don't don't fall victim to trying to outperform the most. This plays into the conversation that we have about expectations. And your expectations are strongly encouraged to be over multi-year time frames. Um, I think there's still decent prices. We started to see bottom, obviously, in 22 with collateral prices, but the investment landscape uh, I, has bottomed in most regard. Obviously, Curve is at a fresh low, but most of the investment landscape is not printing fresh lower lows. Most of the investment landscape in these crypto markets is underappreciated. It has mean regress to the norm. So it's mean regress from the downside to the upside, most of it. So how do you find the most discounted product? One, it's an important journey for you to assess, and you have to own it. Meaning you're going to make your choices, and you have to own your choices because those choices you make will produce the results you experience, and you have to measure those results over a reasonable time frame for 8, 12 years. And that's it. I hope that helps. Uh, Tell us. Let us know your journey. Come back, pop some commentary, join us on private Discord, and we're all happy to chime in with responsible commentary, responsible conversation, and certainly are curious because anyone and everyone that well, better said, how many folks are also interested? I'm sure everyone is. If you're interested, there's 10,000 people that are also interested in your experience. Hope that helps. Tap. See, with the hard liquidation stress test, I thought it interesting liquidators were having issues understanding how. The takeaway is Curve optimizing that shared understanding of that more. That was a massive stress test, and I'm quite fond of the mechanics of CRV-USD and Llama Lend. Bad debt is a repercussion of stress conditions, of systemic performance and a capacity to liquidate effectively. Um, but the mechanics offered by those two protocols, well, one protocol, core protocol, the base of both CRV-USD and Llama Lend, is quite an innovation in a sea of innovation. So I don't mean to highlight anything as being more significant than other tech, but there's an incredible amount of tech. This plays into what Gaming Larry's thinking. How do you know what to invest in? There's great tech everywhere, and what you want is, you know, a minimally diverse portfolio. You want exposure to a fair amount of tech, fintech, and your portfolio's performance with regard to cash flow will be a manifestation of the chosen exposure. Curious what the hell plays out with tapioca. I'm curious what the hell plays out with Ave. Curious what the hell plays out with urine. I think Abracadabra has been holding on, and that is going to be hell of a venue for the degeneracy in the next cycle. And clearly, Curve Tech. It's meaningful. It's all meaningful. Don't over, don't. What's the phrase we used to say? I haven't said it in a long time. Don't go all in and don't spread too thin, which is basically don't over diversify and don't over concentrate, which is basically the most ambiguous frickin' statement I could possibly state, but it's the truth. So you want to own a bunch of stuff, but you don't want to own too much because then you're not concentrated enough. And if you go all in on one thing and that one thing doesn't work out, you overconcentrated. So you need to diversify. So what's the balance? No one can answer that. And all you can do is measure from a hindsight perspective. Hope that helps. DCA man, congrats, Gaming Larry. You have the best asset. Time, 100K now in 10 years will be weird. Okay, it's a very interesting perspective. 100K is a lot of capital. There's a lot of powerful income offering assets to they could choose to purchase salaries, and 10 years is a hell of a time frame, and there is nothing else. There's nothing in equities land that's going to give you, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% return on your capital, APR on a yearly basis. Nothing but the growth potential. If $1 trillion comes into this market, the it gets really weird. DCA, man. It gets really weird. If $1 trillion flows into the United States, you know what happens? Jack fucking shit. So you're all investing, not y'all, but you folks invest in the U.S. equities market. $1 trillion flows into equities, fucking nothing happens. You don't even see it. $1 trillion flows into these fintech markets, this market of markets that we call the crypto space, and these assets reprice into the stratosphere. And what's $1 trillion in the global landscape? Zero. Basically zero. It's basically just tip of the hat, an acknowledgement. Hey, we see you, and we're going to start deploying our pennies. So that's what this crypto space means with regard to a destination for capital. If you think about it from an emerging market standpoint, the mere drop of a penny into these crypto markets from a global currency supply perspective, in 10 years' time, the repricing would be weird. Weird. Dante's, I think TAP will emerge as one of the most valuable tokens that has ever been created. I think V33 tokens will hide from the revenue that Tapioca will produce. Well, it's a different product. So don't think, measure. And it takes time to measure. And you can only make that assessment in 4 years' time from now. And it's different products. I mean, literally, B33 is meant for foreign exchange, whereas Tapioca is kind of a seamless cross-chain liquidity slash not really financing the same way as like B33 bifurcated incentive systems or base voter escrow is with regard to liquidity financing because that requires dilution to a degree. But what is Tapioca? They're going to build protocol and liquidity like with their options. Uh, it's they are. We've seen a lot of options emissions protocols since Andre and his fixed forex, but that the first one after fixed forex to talk about it was Tapioca. So they've been building for years at this point, but they were the first, and everyone else was just after. So if anyone has a potential to do it in a very interesting way, certainly Tapioca. So protocol and liquid, that's just going to be really interesting what plays out with Tapioca. I mean, what Matt and team conceived of from a protocol functionality perspective, how holistically it was thought out is quite extraordinary to even begin to think about just now. It's like, holy shit, did they really build that? So don't compare apples to oranges. Um, Simple as that. That's I think a reasonable statement. Vitalik, yo, how is your current position going? I talked the entire stream thus far about it. We could see. Let's take a look. Maybe you could get a sense of where I'm going with my statement. How's my current position going? Next week, I get cash flow. Okay, check. Cash flow checks out. Next week's going to be very interesting from, oh, let's check this week's cash flow. Oh, no, but this week's cash flow was yesterday. We already got paid. Pretty good. So we'll check back next week. How's cash flow? Hope you don't mean that humorously. I hope you mean that supportively and positively. So 47.9% based on uh, fair market value. So that's pretty good. So how's curve position going? Pretty good. Paying 50% on the money. As curve price depreciates, revenue goes up. As inverse proportional relationship there, and it is proportional to transaction volume and debt interest volume. So that's really good. How about that for a perspective? Hope that helps. Uh, Dante, Scamming Larry, Urine V3 vaults are absolutely insane. They've been offering 20% APY on DAI for months now. I would go for that. They are reputable and very secure. Uh, Urine at this point is probably one of the most secure code bases there is. I've over the past years, they have encountered security issues, and their postmortems are extraordinary. And I'm inclined to think their code base is just as extraordinary. And I say that from a development perspective. Um, 20% is a big deal. 20% is clearly comfortable. So you're putting in stablecoins and Yearn's doing what they're doing from a derivative perspective and rehypothecating. Uh, 20%, the question becomes, is that adequate compensation for risk exposure? And does it meet expectations? Because 20% on 100K is 20K a year. One, that's compounding. Two, you never 20% compounded, Einstein would fall over backwards. Um, and you have to set your expectations to be reasonable timeframes. Listen, in 10 years' time, 20% compounded, holy crap, that's 10 years' time. So, this plays into a lot of thought, and that's why it's not easy, Dante's. But that's an excellent tidbit of the potential for these crypto markets, 20% on stablecoins. Oh my God. Arrow, you touched on it briefly, just how, but if you had a bunch of more ETH, much more ETH than cash flow, would you sell ETH for cheap cash flow assets like Curve, Convex? Okay, so ETH is collateral. We go back to Aave. So obviously I chose Aave this time around for debt because of fixed rate debt on Go. But CRVUSD and Llamaland are equally interesting. Obviously, Liquidity V1's not interesting. Prisma's not interesting to me. I need more comfortability with regard to collateral management and the liquidation process. And I'm not fond of that hard liquidation process. Uh, but and then that's what Aave offers. But I was fond of the fixed rate debt and their Go mechanic and the discount on the Go interest rate because of the Aave staked Aave token. So that I found interesting. Otherwise, the most interesting liquidation mechanic in the crypto space has to be what Curve offers. Um, would I sell Ethereum for cheap cash flow? At some point, the whole point of this game is the accumulation of both. So how do you balance that? I don't know. The way where I'm at is I'm at investment season is over. I have what I think is good exposure to investments, and I have remaining a decent amount of collateral, and I'd like to build that collateral. And I have enough cash flow. Look, I was able to pay off a computer in a week. It's pretty good cash flow. So, and that's in this kind of market where things are literally rolling over and falling apart on us. When the banana zone comes, what's my expectations? My expectation is primarily 5, 10x on cash flow, 10x at the banana zone top. A 10x on cash flow on a weekly basis at the banana zone top would be weird. It's like getting a 10x raise at work. That's why it's weird. And it would be so weird. And that and that be my expectation. And that's not turning, 50 grand into 100 mil. That's real. It's cash flow, that's salary, and that's meaningful when you really think about it in terms of the time you spend at work and how hard it is to get a stupid raise at work. And then when the banana zone comes, you get a 10x on your salary. It's weird. So the most important thing I could offer you guys is to think about things differently and compartmentalize, as the imagery of today's stream offers. And the more you think about things differently, the better you're going to be able to structure your operations, the better you can form a business, and the more sustainable you're going to be in these markets. And if anything, these markets have taught us is that all you have to do is survive, and the markets will do the rest. Hope that helps. Last couple of questions. We're going to wrap it up for today. Arrow, use your ETH as collateral to borrow against for those tokens. Yeah, bear in mind, look what you're staring at, folks. It's collateral and cash flow. Can't just borrow against collateral. Naked leverage is risky. You need to be able to actually pay off your debt in a reasonable amount of time. And my mindset right about now is any debt you have, you should be able to pay it off in about a month or less. Otherwise, I don't think it's necessarily reasonable. And I must encourage prudent investment activity. Um, no tax, yeah, no tax on debt, of course, Matthew. Um, it's still a complicated equation, and I think there's more to it, but it's good points. Arrow, you even like the Phantom Menace. My man. Sergio, present. I've done that as well. Lock and build cash flow, recycle the currency back into USD after that. Yeah, but you get it. You get it. Chicken Sammy's, what was it? Is pizza shops. But Chicken Sammy's is a good way to put it as well. Um, Last couple exit liquidity for the big boys. No, I don't necessarily know the context of the statement, but uh, Godspeed, Noah. What's your preferred right now? Curve, convex at today's prices? Neither. For my investment season, it is over. I'm not interested in investing currently, even at discounted prices. That's okay, and that is my choice to make. And I cannot help you make that choice. Hard choices, though, right? um, uh, oh, unfuttered klutz. I get your point. You don't understand capital management. Godspeed. Good luck out there. Will you keep your AVA exposure in the future? No, I pay this off. I just stated that, Gazika, you should take on debt that you pay off in a month or less. And that is what I define as reasonable uh, exposure. So that is a reasonable time frame uh, to uh, to to resolve any outstanding debt. Snoke's in the house. Much a pleasure. Prince, happy Friday, my friends. What are your thoughts on abolishing the income tax? I don't think it's as simple as that, but I appreciate the political narrative, political optics. He's trying to find favor with his base, and that's okay. I don't need to choose to engage in political conversation at the moment, but we'll see what plays out. Hello, Raoul's in the house. Pleasure. Uh, Unfuttered klutz. Taxes are total useless. Meant to fool the sheep. True statement. True statement. And that's a whole political reality. I appreciate that you're offering constructive conversation. Um, but taxes are required to balance consumer. Or what governments have done is to balance consumer price inflation. If you increase taxes, you're decreasing persons' capacity to spend. Therefore, people are able to put less price inflationary pressures in the system, supply and demand balance. But uh, that type of conversation and how nation states construct their economics, not for the end of the stream. That's a good topic, though. I appreciate that topic. Cap, can you share the link to the page where we see APR of the curve, please? Curve Hub? Curve Hub. Go back to that. We'll finish it up. Um, hey, see, this is how you end the stream. Thank you. Uh, and that's okay. It's okay to know that there's better ways to do things and better perspectives to have, and to know where you are on the journey. And there's a great strategy to capital management, and it's not as simple as folks think. And that is literally the entire conversation we had today on the stream, unfunded cuts, underfunded cuts. So if you want, rewind the stream to the beginning, take a listen. It's not as simple as folks may think. There's an art, there's a structure to it, and there's a way of compartmentalizing things to think differently about how things could be done and how things could be done better. I appreciate that. Thank you. DCA man, thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. I appreciate all of you making it to the end of the stream. 220 people made it to the end of the stream. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Adam, I'll catch you next time next week. Anyone's interested, we have our private Discord filled with very well experienced survivors and that have gained a lot of veteran capacity in these crypto markets. So it's always a great place, and I appreciate our conversations we have in there every day. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. I will see you guys next week. Peace.